Hell of having. All right, I think we're right to go. How are you, Julian?
I'm very well. Yourself?
I'm good. I just make sure that yeah, I think it's all going all good. Um, I do have some notes to read, so I've have prepared for this. See, but first of all, welcome and thank you for coming. Just to make a start, introduce yourself, a little bit about where you are in your market.
Yeah, so my name's Julian Price. We started a company along with eXp called Price & Co Real Estate. Our market, we predominantly cover the Bass Coast and Baw Shire. Um, I've been doing real estate for 18 years now, predominantly over in Druin, and then probably about 4 years ago, I changed market and moved over to the Bass Coast market. So uh, working away, trying to establish myself over there, which
Yeah.
is, yeah, been a good challenge.
So, been in real estate 18 years. So, what made the decision 18 years ago that real estate was for you?
It's a bit of a funny story, actually. I'd been playing football and then studying at university. I come back home to where my parents lived, so my hometown. And my mum said, "It's time for you to get a real job, go get a 9 to 5." And supposedly real estate's it. I don't know about the 9 to 5, but it's sort
No,
of,
it isn't that.
it's definitely not
I
that, but
don't
it
know if it's
was,
a real job either. It's
yeah.
but it can be a lot of fun, that's for sure. So, you are, as you've said, down in that region. So you're um, West Gippsland, as we'd call it, but a regional area, an hour and a half from Melbourne to
Yeah,
get
hour
into
and a half
town, something
Melbourne.
like that. So, but very much a regional area that's got the separation from the suburbs to where you are and the townships in that district. Obviously, having started in real estate 18 years ago, you started in the traditional way at an office somewhere, and started cutting your teeth as a trainee or a new salesperson.
I actually started off as a office administrator. So I started off as a trainee, business administration for a small agency that's no longer a part of it anymore, but worked for a lovely guy called Graham Fairweather. And he sort of cut my teeth into real estate. Started off just as business administration and then worked all the way up. Ended up being like a office manager there, and then wanted to cut my teeth into sales. And then there was sort of the Genman system, so I learned the Genman system with him, and then decided to change offices to probably it's probably one of the bigger competitors down there, but it was one of the biggest offices in town. That just did it a little bit differently. So cut my teeth into sales, into that, and also did a heap of other stuff. So commercial, PAing, EAing, like the whole kit and caboodle. I got I guess a fair
Yeah.
vast of
So
experience.
yeah, it sounds like you've got a whole heap of experience before you got into sales, so which is a, a, a different path, but one that gave you a really good background in what goes on in this crazy business we call real estate, other than the sales part. But then, as you said, so you moved into the sales, and how did that go at a start, and what sort of transpired from there?
It's interesting. I sort of worked for an agency. I was probably still pretty young at that stage. I probably would have
Hmm.
been maybe 25, probably looked 15 at the time.
Yep.
And I actually remember one of the discussions with the boss's dad, who was I guess, really good. He was a great mentor. And he
Mhm.
said, uh, I think at the time I grew a beard, and he said, "Look, if I had a be if I was still the boss and you had a beard, you wouldn't be working for me." But I sort of said it was to try and make me look older, so that I could, build that trust with people, because I did really look very young.
Yeah.
But I guess, yeah, moved around a little bit within that office. I guess coming from the office manager sort of position, I had a lot of skills that weren't necessarily just sales based. And so I ended up working. for a couple of guys down in our Druin office. Worked as a PA, but pretty much just ran sales anyway. I was doing a lot of the league work anyway, so I was doing sort of more buyer agency stuff. Buyer agent stuff. So I was running all the open homes. I was negotiating deals, doing all that sort of stuff. I just didn't really have the vendor side of things. And then decided to leave that office and go to a new office that started Barry Plant in Druin. And I went there purely for the prospecting side of things because I felt that was the part of me that was missing from a real estate perspective. And yeah, they were hungry. And so, yeah, that sort of cut my teeth on that side as well.
Yeah, right. So certainly an interesting background. And then somewhere along the line, you decided you wanted to be out on your own or independent or can control of yourself. So what happened and and obviously you found eXp at some stage in that process. So tell us about that and how you found eXp.
Yeah, I guess I probably did it 10 years too late, I reckon. I thought I was probably ready to jump into it probably a lot earlier than what I actually did, but at the time there wasn't anything like eXp around. Um, I had a really good relationship with Ben, who's at Bauble Real Estate, also part of eXp. I actually worked with him in one of our offices, and he went out and started his own. And then I was sort of like, all right, it's time to uh, bite the bullet, I guess. And it's something that I'd always wanted to do. And then yeah, eXp was there. It's like, all right, this is the perfect part for me to go out and actually get started without having to deal with all the other stuff that comes along with starting your office. And so, I didn't have to worry about subscriptions, all that sort of stuff. It was all in one place, and I could just go, all right, they're going to take over my trust account. They're going to do all my subscriptions. I can just make this work. I can actually just hit the ground running and go and list and sell properties. And so
Yeah.
that's how it sort of worked from that.
Yeah, that's an interesting side of it that you just could break one day and be out and listing and selling properties in your own business the next day without having to do what I've done a couple of times, and that's establish the whole thing and offices and fit outs and staff and all the rest of it. So it really did shortcut the system, I suppose, to getting you out listing and selling your own business straight away. And you mentioned that you didn't have to pay subscriptions and things, and that's obviously part of the model. We're not going to go through too much detail on that sort of thing today, but just a big cost saving there and a fast forward, if you like, is sounds like what you experienced.
Yeah, absolutely. It went from being that, I guess, the unknown of the traditional office where you talk about, you have to get the office fit out, you have to do this, all that sort of stuff. So there was still some costs, obviously changing my branding, getting open for inspection boards, in all the actual on the ground stuff. But from a, all right, that's my printing and everything done, and then a week later, I'm ready to go. Um,
Yeah.
and so that was a big difference. And the beauty was I could just go out and start listing properties straight away. And
Mm.
then they're up and running, and I'm hitting the ground running. That first year was, they always say was the most difficult. But it was I actually had a lot of fun the first year. It's actually been harder since then.
Well, the
Because I've
first year, when did you join? It was 2021, is that right?
yeah, it was 2021.
Yeah. So most of us remember what's happening in the world about then, and nothing was normal. And so you'd certainly taken a leap right in the middle of COVID and taken a leap to go out on your own and take up this strange new model of eXp that had only been probably in the country a year or so at that stage. But having had what you said there as that administrative and business minded background, how do you look at that? How do you look at your business now, forgetting the sales part of it, and how Julian Price and Co Real Estate and eXp, how they joined together and how that's continued and how you've what benefit you got through that relationship for your
Yeah,
business.
there's I guess a couple of different folds to it. So obviously the subscription and the back end sort of help that we get definitely helps out there. Like I know I'm dealing with Kirsten at the moment. One thing that's going to hopefully change things for us a little bit again. I know We've got, new CRM coming in, which we're all really excited about, which is going to be, a bit of a game changer for us as well. So I think that's going to be really important. Also for the structures, I think going forward. Um, I guess the other thing is here in Victoria, we've got, I've got obviously a really good relationship with Ben. There's other guys that I reach out to, yourself, Tony, that we have some really good discussions. So it's not like you're out here doing it by yourself. There's people you can easily just sort of reach out to and connect with that are going through similar sort of stuff that you are. And have had similar experiences. They've been at the big offices and they just, you get spat out and churned out. And just all right, yeah, another salesman who doesn't care, whereas
Yeah.
here it's like a bit more of an adventure. So yeah.
Yeah, you touch on the fact that you do have those few people that you reach out to, and that's something that I think most people in EXP have. Certainly, my experience, I felt we had more collaboration in a cloud-based national company than I did with people that were sitting in the same room as me for many years. In some cases, you joint listed with them and everything, and still they're more of a competitor than anything we experience now. So that's certainly. A refreshing thing and something that having those people to draw upon. How important is that for you, in being, because you are not only in your own business and on your own, so to speak, apart from your own family, but you're in a little bit of an isolated geographic area from the rest of us in Melbourne proper. How do you find, how's that collaboration and those other people sort of keep you on track and keep you, add to that business of yours?
I think it's really, really important. I think as I guess as salespeople, before we sort of start the own business, you're a very good technician. Is it the best way I describe it?
Yep.
And sometimes that sort of the actual running of the business is very, very different. You go through lots of different uh, like I joke sometimes I think I've got three hats on. Like technician's only just part of it. Another one's a manager because I'm managing, where I should be, looking at targets, all that stuff. But I guess some of those connections is also part of that as well. So Ben and I, we check in each other probably it'd be at least once a week. We've got that pretty good connection. We've got a chat group that we send each other how many open homes we have on the weekend, that sort of stuff. So we're always sort of just connected, and then we'll talk about what's working in our business, what's not working in our business. And him and I run a very, very different structured business.
Mhm.
So, I guess we're also sort of spitballing different things sometimes as well. So that's just good to have. I know one of my old bosses that I spoke to when he found out I was going out on my own. He rang me and tried to give me some advice and just said, "Look, it's really, really, really lonely at the top." And so I sort of said, "Yep, I can understand that, but with eXp, it's not because you've got these other people that you're not just doing it by yourself. There's other people that you can collab with or you can connect with that are going through exactly the same things that you are, and probably making the same mistakes that we are making too."
Yeah.
Which you're better off failing fast. And then
Yeah, look, there's
yeah.
look, there's nothing new under the sun, and we're all trying to get ideas for everyone. It's great you've got Ben, as you say, who's a really good person that you interact with a lot, but it certainly can be lonely. I suppose a lot of people in real estate themselves have got staff and those sorts of things. There's people around them, but we run cloud-based. We're all at home, so to speak, or in our home offices, that sort of thing. How's that been for you, being able to be at home, and how's your, from a lifestyle sense, rather than that traditional office employee that you were, or whether you created your own office? What do you find is the benefits and not so much benefit of being at home in a home-based business?
I was going to say, I'm amazed my little fella hasn't. I've got a little 1-year-old, so I'm surprised he hasn't come in and crashed the party. But for me, I've been able to watch him grow. I've been at home majority of the time, so I can actually look after him, do the work that I need to do while I'm at home. I'm a lot more efficient than what I was previously in the office. I don't have people come and ask me, oh, what about this? What about that? I can just focus on my clients. I can focus on what I need to do day to day. And then, do those things and then move on. And then, sometimes having a good interruption is the son comes in or my wife comes in, we can have lunch together, or we can, like today I was making phone calls and then prepping for dinner tonight. So dinner's like
Yeah.
already done, and it's like, all right, I've actually done all my phone calls for the day. I've followed up everybody. I've got send off authorities for a new property. Like all this sort of stuff's all been done. Um,
And you
and
made dinner.
yeah,
And it's
and
only 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
yep. And
A
then it's
win.
like, even the best thing is too, like having your own business too. I can just walk down the street. I've got a coffee shop down the road here. I can walk down the coffee shop and there's people say, "G'day, Julian." Blah blah. Oh, I
Yeah.
saw you sign. It's that sort of, which happens with sort of any sort of real estate agency. But the fact that it's still happening with a home based business just shows it's okay. We've got the marketing. The marketing's out there working,
Yep.
and people are becoming more and more aware that I actually don't need the big office. I don't need the big brand. I can just be myself. And I think
Yep.
that's probably the other thing that's let me do is I've been more myself as an agent than um,
Yeah.
being pressured into this is what I need to
Yeah.
do.
So that's an interesting point you make there. Just, um, what are the things that agents may be experiencing that are restricting them that you've found, as you just mentioned, you're not pressured to do anything particular? Give us an example or so of that type of thing of, what you experienced previously to now?
Yeah, I guess I've dealt with different people. I've been micromanaged to the nth degree. Where I remember I went to one office and I think they'd set me a target of like 20 appraisals a month, which was, unrealistic at the
Going for
time.
it. Yeah.
Um, but I was doing like 12 and I was getting, they were coming into the office and going, all right, like you haven't met your target, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sort of sitting there going, well, yeah, but I've got 10 listings out of 12 appraisals. And, the other guys that are hitting the 20 appraisals, then they're not hitting the 10 listings. So
No.
like which one do you want? Do you want me to just try and yeah, so it was a bit interesting. So micromanaged from that perspective. There was always the cost cutting. So like you get your commission, and then you go, oh, we've got this extra that comes out, and we've got to put this into the marketing fund, and so they say, yeah, we're on this split, and they're taking 10% off the top straight away for the office, and then oh yeah, the administration stuff stuffed up a brochure, and we had to buy new brochures. So now we've got a new brochure that's come off yours, and so there's like all of that sort of stuff, and then
Wow.
I remember I had sales meetings that used to go for hours, like 2 hours of sales meeting in the morning. And getting told, we've had a record month, congratulations. And then the next, literally, then at the end of the meeting is you guys are going to have a terrible Christmas because we don't have enough listings and and you're just thinking, what the heck is going on? We just set a record for this, and yeah, sure enough, we're back to square one and then there's you're in a meeting and it's like, oh, what do we need to do to sell these properties this week? You need to go have these tough conversations with your vendors because you need to get price drop after price drop after price drop.
Mm.
You know, um, even just selecting the marketing that works is like another really good one. I remember being forced to sell photo signboards, and I don't know. Down my area, photo signboards don't do anything for a property. And so it's just like, what's the point of having if somebody's traveling down here to look at this property, they've already seen it on online, so they don't need to see a photo of the
Be
kitchen.
logical.
Yeah, most people are traveling an hour to get down here. They're not going to be sitting out in the front of a property going, "Oh, gee, that's got a nice kitchen. Let's go have a look at it."
Yep. No, gee, you touch on some rippers there. And we've all been there, having been in offices a long time. But yeah, the the splits, I suppose, are low enough without all the deductions that come off them, and that's some rippers you've had there by the sound of it. So, so the 75% split at eXp up to 100K and then 100% thereafter. And as you mentioned, you've got some freedom to be at home and things like that. How does that split and the costs or otherwise sort of sit with you, and how's that affected, your business and your lifestyle?
Yeah, I guess from my perspective, the last 12 months I've had, my wife's got pregnant, we've had a newborn. And so dealing with that is that it's just been, okay, I've got more of my commission. So I've had to sell less. So I've been able to be more present. Um, and for me, that's worth more than anything, I think, at this point in time. Um, because if I was in an office environment and I was getting 50% or 60%, I wouldn't have been able to do that. I still would have had to be in the office, absolutely slaving my guts out. So it just makes a big, big difference to us. Obviously, this year I'll ramp back up, and more of that commission will come in, and it just means it's more in my pocket for the work that I do, and yeah, it's more reward for effort, I guess,
Yeah.
than yeah, giving it to somebody else so that their boss can buy a new Porsche or
Yep,
something like that.
we've all been there. We've all got our war
Yeah,
stories about what the boss has been able to achieve off our hard work.
yeah. Or the
Um,
boss going to Thailand, at a drop of a hat, and you're like, okay, cool. Can I buy shirts this week? What can I do this week? Yeah, I've got to buy some
yeah,
more open boards,
yeah.
um, that sort of stuff. So
Oh, well, it's certainly great to hear that, your decision to go out on your own and be powered by XP is one that's given you, more freedom and time for their family, which you can never get back. Having grown a young family while working 70, 80 hours a week, I know what I've missed out on. So now you've been with eXp for, quite a long period, 4 years odd. And in that time, I haven't been here that long, so I'll ask you, what have been the roller coasters that you've had to experience and overcome in that time in your relationship with eXp? And I asked that question without knowing what the answers are going to be, but absolutely, just it would give me an idea of what you've had to experience in that time and what others may experience if they were to join.
yeah, I guess probably the biggest change that happened. Probably, and we probably know this issue is probably the realestate.com issue. When I first come in to XP, we only had one sort of subscription, which was fine with me. I was like, yep, we'll do standard. I changed all my marketing, changed everything to make that work. I was going out listing properties, doing really well. And then the subscription changed, and all of a sudden we were at Premier. And then I had to change the whole business model that I had to switch it around from standard to premier. And then that was fine. That was probably the biggest challenge, just because I had momentum with what I was doing, and then I had to shift and change. Um, and then that issue is now being fixed because we can either go premier or standard now, but it's taken a little while for that to sort of get there. But now, you've got the flexibility to do either. And so I'll probably flick back or do whatever I'm going to do there. So I'll probably go back to the model that I started with, just because of um, the cost more so for the vendor. Purely I've got areas like Prowera, I've got Woolamai. There's areas out there that if you search on realestate.com, there's only two properties that are on the market. So paying a premier subscription for that is no real benefit for the
Mm,
vendor. And so I've now got the flexibility to go, all right, we don't need to have the premier for that property. Let's just do a standard, and we can, save you some
mm.
dollars there. Whereas I can push it into social media or something or other else. That's probably been the biggest. That was probably the biggest challenge that happened. That's it seems like a big issue, but it's not really when you look at the gist of things of running your day to day business. Um, Things like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
happen.
it's being able to have that flexibility for your client, to go down the path that works best for them. I think it's a great milestone we passed. Obviously, we rely upon realestate.com. It's our single greatest source of inquiry. I don't think anyone will dispute that. But it does come with some real challenges that we've all as agents experienced over the last several years, and so very happy to be in the position now where we've got the option to be standard or premier and can use those flex points never endingly, which is a great thing to experience now. you've got a unique position in the company in that you are a member of our Agents Advisory Council, our AAC. So, and you've been a member for 3 years, which is a longer stint than most. I think it's a 2-year commitment, and 3 years and going strong. And that's for those that don't know, we have or perhaps you can tell us exactly the AAC and what it is, but Julian's a member. So give whoever's watching an idea of what the AAC is here for in relation to eXp and the agents.
Yeah, I guess the AEC is a voice for agents, so that by agents, I guess, is the best way to do it. Is so any of the agents within eXp can come to somebody. So I'm one of the Victorian members. So anyone in Victoria can come talk to me, provide feedback, and then we can pass it straight on to the corporate side as well, and vice versa. Corporate can say, "Hey, look, we're thinking about doing this." They come to the AAC. We can then discuss it within there and then say, yeah, that's a great idea, or I think there's going to be a bit of blowback on that. I don't think that's such a great idea. And so we can sort of, push this agent, I guess eXp is agent centric. It's all about giving back to the agents and making sure that it's more pushed towards the agent. So it's not like, I remember I was part of Barry Plant when they got rid of roll out the red carpet and changed to the
Yep.
new marketing, and it was, we just spent a bucket load as agents about buying up open boards, all that sort of stuff, and then all of a sudden it
Yep.
shifted because corporate wanted to make a change, and we
Yep.
all had to foot the bill.
And
And
that's,
so
yeah.
I guess with eXp, you've got this, we're constantly getting feedback from agents. You also got somebody that's not in corporate that you're giving feedback to. So it's not going to be like, oh, yeah, corporate speak, sorry, we can't do that. It's like, hey, yeah, tell us all this feedback, because then we can pass it on, and we're adaptable. We can change if we need to. And so I think that's the agent voice is going back, and it's an advisory committee to
Yeah.
corporate.
Yeah. So, I don't know about larger franchise groups, whether anyone has that type of layer that, it is a layer between corporate and agents where they can feel comfortable in sharing their problems or challenges or whatever that may be in relation to the model and how, it's working for them. And we certainly, as a member for 3 years, we thank you so much for that representation for agents, because, without people that volunteer their time to do these types of things, we wouldn't have that avenue available for agents. So certainly appreciate that. So you mentioned it's time to ramp up and get back into, or you've never been out of it, but having had a baby and working from home and looking after that stage of your fatherhood and enjoying that. What's the ramp up plan? What are you going to put in place that we can help with, or that you're going to utilize eXp's resources the most?
Well, I guess you've got the big shift is going to be the change to the CRM. That will definitely help from that perspective. Also, the Canva. So I use a lot of stuff for social media. So we've got the Canva subscription. We can just load everything in and go ballistic on that. And then just all the other tools like I guess all your forms, all that sort of stuff's all there ready to go. So I've got that all. That's all been done in the background, ready for me to just launch into it. I've got a heap of. I guess I do. What do you call it? I've just had a mental blank. I've got a core area that I work,
Yep.
and so yeah, I've just got a lot of templates, a lot of different stuff that's all going out through there to ramp up the appraisals. And the beauty is too that if with eXp, if somebody's got something that's working really well, they just go, "Hey, this appraisal is working really well for me," and then you're like, "Oh,
Share it.
cool, I'll adapt that for my marketplace and let's go."
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, there's that sort of stuff sort of happening as well.
Yeah. Look, and in Canberra, I know, one of the choices that agents can make when they're fully licensed is to be self-branded, which clearly you are as Price and Co. And Canva has thousands of different templates of brochures and droppers and flyers and all the rest of it. But it is just a matter of switching in your logo and getting all the ideas from those templates. So it is a great resource. So just in finishing, if there's an agent watching who's thinking about joining eXp, what would you say to them?
Just do it. What are you waiting for? Like a lot, I
Yeah.
guess that was probably I held myself back. Like if you're already doing the work, you're sitting in the office and you're going, man, I just got my commission check, and you look at it and you got, they've done a clawback retainer, and you're looking at it and you're going, okay, cool, I've just earned, like that was one of the things I remember to me. I looked at one of the things, I was like, cool, I've earned 30 grand this month and I've got seven, you know, and you're just like, okay,
Ripper.
cool. All right, now, and then the other thing is I remember looking at my commission at the end of the year, because that's one of the things I used to always do is look at my commission at the end of every year. Have I improved? What have I done? What do I need to work on? That sort of stuff. Do the self-reflection, and I looked at it and I was like, okay, I wrote the business this, and I got paid this,
Mm.
and there'll be a lot of agents
And
doing this. If you're looking at that and you're going, that's a lot of money, make the shift,
yeah,
because you won't regret it. You're doing the same. Like I always say, you're a technician at the moment. Yeah, there's some stuff you'll have to learn, but eXp is here to help you through that. You don't have to worry about your trust account because eXp takes care of that for you. All that sort of stuff. You can then hit the ground running, get going, and then get that commission back in your pocket. And then your lifestyle comes along with it as well. So it's not just about the money, it's about lifestyle, it's about freedom. Uh, you know, if there's just lots of different other aspects that you should be focusing on, than just that paycheck. But that's probably the
yeah,
first part where you look at and you go, holy moly, I've written, this much money for the company and I've got a squillion little bit of it. Um,
yeah,
you're scrimping and saving. You go, cool, I can make a change.
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Julian, and thank you for your time today. Really good to have, guests like you that have been multiple years and can really sort of give us a reflection of what that's been like. I know your business has gone, you've had some great wins over the past 18 months since I've been around. Really look forward to the next level of your business, ramping up even more. So thank you so much for being here today and sharing your experience. And we only hope that, for anyone watching that is thinking about joining, if you'd like to speak to Julian, hey, just pick up the phone. Julian Price from Price & Co. Real Estate. Doesn't matter where you are in the country. He'll tell you exactly how it is as being an eXp member and what to expect. And, like I think you passed on already, we're all here to help and collaborate with you if you are looking to join. So thanks, Julian. Thanks so much for joining.
No problems at all. Thanks for having me.
Good on you, mate.
All right,
Talk to you
take
soon.
care.
See ya.